I'm your host for this series of podcasts. My name is Iqbal Akhtar. I'm here in Miami, and we're very honored to have Joe Jacoby, who is one of the preeminent leaders of the Jewish community here in Miami. And I'll let him introduce himself in terms of his background. But we first want to just talk through a little bit of your history, your background, and then how you came to kind of interfaith work and why you think these things are important, and then kind of thinking about where does the future of our community lie. So if you can just start us off a little bit about your own background.
I'm a native Miamian. I grew up here. I was a graduate of public school, which you don't see much of anymore here. And I matriculated from high school to the University of Florida. And I came back to Miami to find a career, which I found. I was accepted to a law school in Houston, Texas, because my entire family are lawyers, and it wasn't for me. So I went in a different direction, and I found a great career, and I worked at it for 50 years in Miami, and I sold my business in 2017, and I went to work for the national company that bought it, and I was with them for another 3 years, and at the pandemic date, I was able to walk away. And so I've been able to pour myself into the work that we've been doing together. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to have a trusted partner to do that.
No, absolutely. It's been, really remarkable. Talk to us a little bit, how has, I guess Miami changed from the time that you were young till today?
Yes.
It'd be interesting.
Different city. It was so small. There was maybe 250,000 people here. Now there's millions. But my high school graduation class was about 1,150 students. So okay. It was rather large. It's just, it's a public school. It was, and the Jewish community was very, I would say, small and very, I would say, isolated from the community in a lot of ways.
Right.
Which was never one of, my comfort zones. I've always wanted to be a member of the community. So I think maybe that's where some of my instincts and some of my energy has come from to do the work that we're doing. But it was a great community in those days, very small, and I have fond memories of growing up in Miami, Florida. Mm-hmm. And when you see somebody at my age that says they were born here, it's very unusual.
Right, exactly.
But like for my kids who were both born here, it's not very unusual.
Right, exactly.
But it's changed. So
what brought the Jewish community to Miami?
Well, my father and his family moved here from Pensacola, Florida, and which had a much bigger Jewish community at that time. There was this Jewish community in the South that stretched from Atlanta to New Orleans,
right?
And they in Mobile, Alabama, and Pensacola. And my great grandfather was a shop owner. Mm-hmm. He was a merchant, and he had a store in Mobile, Alabama. And then my grandfather, who I'm named for, saw opportunity in Pensacola because they opened up a naval air base there, and they opened up a bar and package store, liquor, and then the children of that, from my grandparents, my father and his sister and his brothers moved to Miami because there was opportunity in Miami.
Okay.
So that's when I think the Jewish community kind of began to take off, was about 1926.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
So it goes way back.
Yeah, I mean, I know the community in New Orleans is also quite old.
Very old.
Yeah, and there's a lot of institutions that are there as well.
Marcia Zurovitz, who ran the Museum of South Florida, mm-hmm. Jewish Museum of South Florida, she put a book together called The Jews of Florida, and my family is in that book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes way back. Yeah.
So I know that, there's also a history of discrimination against Jews, not just in Florida, but like in the South especially.
I can give you two very quick stories regarding anti-Semitism. When my mother and father married, they wanted to live in what is now Coral Gables.
Okay.
And there were signs in front of apartment buildings that said Gentiles only, no Jews allowed. And we have pictures of that.
Wow.
I have images of that my mother took because she couldn't believe it. And, and they were like, astounded at that time. And then if you fast forward to, I would say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I got a phone call on my way to play golf in Miami, going to Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. And it was my mom, of blessed memory, and she goes, "Where are you going?" And I go, "I'm going to go play golf at Lagorce Country Club." And she goes, "Oh, honey, you can't play there," because that was a Gentile-only golf club, which has changed. It's changed, but that's what it was like in Miami for her in that era, and it had changed in my era. So there was hope, I guess you could say.
So what is, getting to that topic of anti-Semitism? What does that look like today?
It's taken on a very strange perspective. If you interchange Jew for Zionist or Zionist for Jew, mm-hmm. that's where the problem, I think, is the crux of the problem. Mm-hmm. Because you can be both. You can be a Jew and you can be a Zionist. You can be a Gentile and be a Zionist. Mm-hmm. The problem is that for the anti-Semitism today, it's kind of lumped into one thought, and that's just inaccurate. And sadly, it's what I think is driving the social media that we see, and most of the anti-Semitism that we see in social media.
Mm-hmm. With you sort of being raised in Miami. Your children, of course, being born here and living now away from Florida, mm-hmm. How has their relationship to Judaism and the Jewish identity shifted over the generations?
It's really portable. Both of my kids went to Beth Am, mm-hmm. Temple Beth Am, which I'm a member of. There's also a day school at Beth Am, and they both attended the day school there, which was a Hebrew day school, the Rambam day school. Mm-hmm. And now I have one daughter that lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have two grandchildren there. And they're my granddaughter, she's 8 years old. She's attending religious school at the Temple in Atlanta. And my 4-year-old grandson he doesn't really go to any religious school yet, but he will. And that's where they'll go. They're members of the Temple. And my daughter that lives in Westport, Connecticut, they're members of Temple Israel. And my grandson goes to the religious school there. My granddaughter goes to the religious school, and my grandson goes to day school there. Okay. So, it's portable. It's whatever we were able to transmit in the beauty of being living a Jewish life and having them grow up in Miami at Temple Beth Am has really kind of, they're both seeking that for their own lives and for their own children.
What are for you the core values of being Jewish?
The core values of being a Jew. There's so many, but I think that in the Torah, and I know you know these things, you and I have had these conversations. One of the most used comments or used sayings in the Torah is that be kind to strangers because you were a stranger in a strange land. And I think that opens up to community. I think and I believe that's what the Torah, which was given to us, is about. It's about building community. Mm-hmm. And when you say build community, that means everybody in the community,
Absolutely.
And so that's a core value for sure. And then, the most core value of all, you want to treat people the way you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a core value.
You've seen, a lot of stages in terms of the development of the United States also throughout the course of your life, and of course, your family's sort of time and presence in the South. Where is the United States headed as a society?
We seem to be real, divided, siloed. You hear all of these buzzwords, and it's. But I don't think it's really as unusual as people want to make it, or as social media makes it. I think that that's pretty much the way it was before the Civil War, and drove us to a civil war. I think that we've been this way on many issues over the course of the lifetime of the United States. But this has a more insidious, I feel to me, in that I follow social media because I'm working in this area with regard to anti-Semitism,
right,
and trying to build community, right, with other people, with other than Jews, and the social media drives this hate like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life, and it's alarming. I mean, it's alarming, and which makes the work that we do even more important.
Right.
It drives me to work on this, and to be a part of it, and to try to have, if I can have a conversation with one person and change their mind about what maybe a Jew is, or maybe if together we change the minds of how people view Jews and the Muslim people, and or even the Christians that live in our community, then I think our job is not complete by any means, but we're on the right track.
What is so with regards to social media, what do you think? So if you had the ability to change kind of the way that people use technology, or the way the tech companies kind of have organized for social media, what do you think would be a good either cultural or policy solution to kind of the polarization?
Boy, that's a mouthful. I think that maybe age should have something to do with this.
Okay.
Where people have access or limited access depending on the age. I think that's important. And then I think education. The more you know about somebody else,
right,
the easier it is for you to have a better understanding of who those people are, and it kind of assuages the hate mongers that tell you differently in social media. And I wouldn't know how you prevent that, but I would think that they, if it wasn't about money, and the social, and those people in social media, and we know who they all are. Yeah. If they were to look at that, they could certainly come up with algorithms, in my opinion, that could change that model.
Right.
So, how do you affect that kind of change? Iqbal, with all due respect to you and the educators in the world, I have no idea how we would do that.
So in terms of education, I mean, one of the things that I think is important for me, and I think for a lot of us, is thinking about character formation, and sort of how do we produce the next generation with people with solid values, right? In terms of respect, in terms of humility, some of these values that are important to all of our traditions. And a lot of times, I think, unfortunately, nowadays, the education, especially secular education, just tends to focus on kind of mastery of certain types of knowledge, but sort of that character formation part of it is either left for religious institutions, for families, or it just doesn't happen.
Right.
What are your thoughts on kind of character formation?
I think there's a certain amount of that certainly in your DNA,
right?
And you're not going to be able to duck that. But I think that it starts with family, and I think that it's a learned tradition in most cases. And then I think that you have to be a lifelong learner, and you have to have an open mind, and you have to be able to accept all these people in the community as your equal, and understand that they have their known or their truths, and you have yours. But doesn't mean that you don't communicate with them. It doesn't mean you don't try to build a community with them and try to make it a better place. So to answer your question directly, I think I come from the perspective of learning and of Torah. So that's what was given to me. But I have, and as we've had these discussions, I'm reading the Quran.
Right.
Okay, and most of our biblical stories are in the Quran.
Right.
In fact, I think it was you that told me that Moses gets mentioned more than the prophet.
Right.
In the Quran, and there's some commonality there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's something there that you can build off of.
Right.
But without having to even have the meetings and the conversations that we've been lucky to have, that I believe brought us to this moment.
Absolutely, no, I agree. I know you've traveled the world as well, and you've been to many different places. We talked very briefly about China. What is the place that you have traveled to that has had the most impact in terms of your...
India.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about that.
India is they have a caste system.
Right.
You're probably aware of that. But they have quite a community there. And they look after one another in a lot of different ways, which I found interesting. But I found it to be a very spiritual place.
Okay.
And I found it to be where a lot of people, go, ugh, I wouldn't want to be there. I wouldn't want to go there. I found it to be, it assaulted my senses, in every aspect, yeah. And I found the people to be incredible, and they're all living their truths too, because they have a Muslim population there, and they have a Hindu population there, and they have the Sikh population there. I mean, there are so many, and that's what I found really most interesting, is they had all of these different groups, and they were all they weren't, I believe, as divided as we are in the United States.
Right.
So that was appealing to me.
Okay.
And I want to go back. I would go back to India in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
You were also the leader of, you were the head of the Temple Beth Am here. What are some of the accomplishments that you were most proud of, and some of the challenges that you had also leading the community, which I'm sure there were quite a number of those as well?
Yeah. Beth Am's a complicated place. It's one of the largest synagogues in the Southeast, and we're close to 2,000 families, and so the impact that you can have at Beth Am, if you think about it, and an average size family of 4, you're looking at a lot of people in one place, and the challenges are many. Back in my day, my wife, as you know, was just installed as the current president of Beth Am, but I did this, when I was like 45. I did it like 30 years ago. So it was a completely different place. We had the day school. The day school drove the synagogue. It still does today. That's where all the money comes from, basically, to do all the programming that we do. Okay. The compelling program that we do, and we were blessed because of that. But the challenges are like any challenge in any community, with different personalities and things like that. But I guess I felt that there was a shortage of leadership in the synagogue. I think there still is. And I never wanted to be the president of the congregation, but I think during my period or my era, the music stopped and everybody jumped in a seat, and I took the position on. But it was a challenge, and but I grew as a person from it, and I don't know that I became a more spiritual person from it, because it's the business side of religion, and I would prefer to be studying and learning than administrating. And my wife has a significant. Her budget is twice the size of the budget that I had when I was president. And so she's got her hands full, and she's got more meetings than I think I had back in the day. But it was there were highs and lows, and the highs were great and the lows were bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I would, and it's a one-time deal. You never want to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can imagine.
Two more questions, and then
Sure.
one is in terms of this conversation that we're having, the ongoing conversation between Islam and Judaism. What are some of the things that you want to learn more about?
Well, as you know, I'm studying. I wouldn't use the word study. I'm reading the Quran. I'm not studying it. If to study it, I would need a study partner,
Sure.
which I might engage you
Sure.
in at some
absolutely.
point.
Yeah.
But I'm reading it, and I think that's the first step. I think that if you've got to walk in somebody else's shoes to understand, and then be able to communicate, and then to be able to build from that. As we have done with this work that we've been doing, you can't just jump into it. It's not something that you have to build trust.
Right.
And if you don't build the trust, then you can't build anything beyond that.
Exactly.
I'm convinced that that if you can communicate with your neighbor, and if you can understand your neighbor, then you can build something that we need to see happen in the United States and in the universe as well.
Okay.
And that is just compassion and love for one another.
Absolutely. Last question. What message do you want to relay to your great-grandchildren?
That I tried.
Okay.
I put my best foot forward. I gave it 100% effort. And I believe, I hope that they will see the value in having a cohesive community where everybody has respect for one another.
And you're hopeful about the future?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. I have 5 grandchildren, and I see the future in their faces.
That's good.
And what I see makes my day.
Okay. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming out here.
Thank you, Iqbal. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to work with you.
Thank you so much.